All right, guys. I want to do a quick video here showing how to do polynomial division, like on the assignment for today and tomorrow. I'm also going to post a Khan Academy video where he goes through quite a few examples with it. He doesn't always go through exactly the same way that I do, but whichever way you feel more comfortable with, if you like his a little better and it looks nicer to you, it's whatever. Okay. So to start out, this is number one off your worksheet. If we're dividing a polynomial, more than one term, whole number powers, coefficients on the front of them, and so on. If we're going to divide a polynomial by a monomial, this is a nice, easy problem that's similar to a lot of the stuff we did in the last section. We're going to, excuse me, split this up, but we got to put it every term over top of that denominator. Plus 40r squared over 5r to the fourth. Now, as we go through this, we're going to use our rules from the last section. 15 over 5 is going to reduce and become 3. 5 over 5 will become a 1. 40 over 5 will be an 8. So we got the coefficients. And then we're going to subtract powers and keep the variables where the power is bigger. R to the 10th has a bigger power than R to the 4th. So we're going to do R in the top of a fraction. So we don't need the bottom yet unless something else shows up down there. And excuse me, we're going to see 10 minus 4 is 6. We still got a minus 1 because it was minus 5 over 5. Power is bigger on top, so we're going to keep the R in the top of a fraction. 8 minus 4 is 4. Last term here, we have the 8 that's going to be up top because it's 4 you divide by 5. But now the power is bigger in the bottom, so we're going to have a bottom to a fraction here. And what we're going to do is keep the R in the bottom and subtract. 4 minus 2 is 2. That one's done. Okay. This next one brings up what's called polynomial long division. Okay. Polynomial long division is going to be a process where we divide a polynomial by typically a binomial. And it's a linear binomial in most cases. I'm going to show you there's a shortcut to it in a video tomorrow that works in some cases, but not all, called synthetic division. That's on that second page of the study guide and intervention if you want to give it a shot. Anyway, if we're going to do this with long division, what we need to do is kind of recall, okay, how in the world did we do long division back in elementary school? Long division back in elementary school, this is a side problem on this. Let's say we had 55 divided by 3. Okay. Yeah, you guys are probably not crazy about seeing long division come back in Algebra 2, but it's an important thing for some of the things we're going to do. So what we're going to start out with is in long division, it's a repeated process, and it goes like this. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and then we repeat, okay? It's a repeated process until we run out of terms. We're not going to have decimal values on this typically. We're going to have a remainder sometimes. We're not going to have decimal values. So it's like the very beginning long division before you were really getting into it with decimals. So that's kind of nice. But I remember when I first learned this, maybe it was like 3rd grade or something like that. With long division, we'd go through and I mean, we'd have to chant, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Same thing here. This is the same process as long division that you learned in elementary school. It just looks more complicated, okay? So we're going to see how many times 3 fits into the first number, 5. That's the divide step. 3 goes into 5 one time. Then we have the multiply step. The multiply step goes the number we just got times, when we look at terminology here, this is the divisor. This is the dividend. Okay. So we do our divide step. We take the result that we got, the part of the quotient we got, and we multiply it by the divisor. 1 times 3 is 3. That's our multiply step. Then we got our subtract step. We're going to subtract. 5 times 3 is 2. Or sorry, 5 minus 3 is 2. Bring down. We bring down the 5. We get 25. And then we go next. How many times does 3 fit into 25. 3 fits into 25, 8 times evenly. 8 times 3 is 24. We're going to subtract that. 25 minus 24 is 1. When we have no more terms left, we're going to call this the remainder. And I had no idea of this until way later than it should have been. But this actually means a mixed number when we get this. I would always see 18 remainder 1, just be done with that. But it means 18 and the part that didn't divide evenly, the remainder, over the divisor. And that's going to come in what we're doing here. So our answer is actually 18 1/3. Now, let's do this with a polynomial. So we're going to set up our division line here. And we're going to put every term except one thing you have to remember in these. If you're missing any powers of that variable all the way down to the constant, you have to put a 0 term as a placeholder. So we're going to put plus 0 a squared because we're missing an a squared, and then plus 0 a because we're missing a regular a, and then our minus 64. And we're going to put a minus 4 out in the front. Okay. Now, what we're going to do is take this one term at a time, and we're going to see how many times does a go into a to the third, just like we saw how many times 3 went into 5. Okay. Well, that's going to be like what we were doing up here when we divided. You basically subtract powers. What would you multiply by a to get a cubed? It'd have to be a squared. That's our divide step. Next is our multiply step. We're going to multiply this through. A squared times a is a cubed. A squared times -4 is -4a squared. That's our multiply step. We took this number and multiply it through just like we did over here. Then we're going to subtract. When we subtract with this, because we have multiple terms, we have to distribute the negative sign to both terms. Negative here, positive here. You switch the signs on everything in that second line. These cancel. Just like when we subtracted 5 minus 3, but we're still going to have 0a squared and 4a squared, which make 4a squared. That's our subtract step. It's done. Now we got our bring down step. So we're going to bring down 0a. I know it looks weird, but we're going to bring down 0a. Then we repeat, just like we saw how many times 3 fits into 25. We're going to see how many times a fits into 4a squared. So we're going to do plus 4a, because a times a would give us the a squared. That's our divide step again. Now we got our multiply step. 4a times a is 4a squared. 4a times -4 is -16a. That's our multiply step. Divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, over and over and over and over and over again. Subtract step. We switch every sign in that second line. Kind of rhymes. Cancel them out. 0a and 16a makes 16a. Then we're going to bring down again. We keep bringing down until we run out of terms to bring down up here. So we got one more step on this one than we did over here, but it's the same process again. We now look at this instead. How many times does a fit into 16a? Well, you would multiply a by 16 to get 16a. That's our divide step. 16 times a is 16a. 16 times -4 is -64. We're going to change the sign on each. We're going to cancel. We get a remainder of 0. There's our answer right there. I want to find a quick one to go through that's going to have a remainder. All right, so I've got another example ready to go here, but I also want to point a couple things out on these. Here's your key. I'll take a picture and send it probably tomorrow, so you can kind of work on it before you get the answers, but hey, it's here, I guess. Now, one thing I wanted to point out, all these down here are going to be long division problems, okay? They're all going to be the same kind of process, but they look different. When we see one like this, that's the one we had just a minute ago. It means a cubed minus 64 over a minus 4, the same as this does. So these are the same type of problem. In this one, this would go under the bar. This would go to the left. And there's another way you can write it where you have the divisor to the -1 power. If we see something to -1 power, we move it to the bottom, and then we do division with it. So that's what all that means right there. So if it's times to the -1, we're just dividing by it. It's just a different notation for it. All right. Now, to move along, that one I was just talking about is the one I picked that I wanted to show you. So we're going to do our long division. We're going to put our x to the fourth minus 3x to the third. We're missing an x squared term, so we have to put a 0x squared there, plus 5x minus 6, and this x plus 2 is going to go out here to the left. Okay, same process. Remember, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, divide, multiply, subtract, bring down until we're out of terms. Okay. All right, so x going into x to the fourth. That's going to give us x to the third because we're dividing it. That's the divide step. We multiply now. X cubed times x is x to the fourth. X cubed times 2 is 2x cubed. Then we're going to do our subtract step, which means we change the sign of everything in that second line. These are going to cancel. Negative 3x cubed and negative 2x cubed is negative 5x cubed, and we pull down the next term. How many times does x go into negative 5x cubed? Well, that's going to be negative 5x squared. We're dividing this by x. We multiply it back through now. Negative 5x squared times x is negative 5x cubed. This first term should always match, by the way, before you flip the sign. Negative 5x cubed times 2 is negative 10. Or sorry, negative 5x squared times 2 is negative 10x squared. This term does not have to match. Change the sign on everything in the second line. Cancel. 0x squared and 10x squared make 10x squared, and then we have a plus 5x. What will we multiply by x to get 10x squared? Excuse me, that's going to be 10x. That's our divide step. Now we multiply. 10x times x is 10x squared. Hey, it matches again. 10x times 2 is 20x. That's our multiply step. Now we're going to do our subtract step and change the sign on everything in the second line. Negative, negative. These cancel. 5x and negative 20x is negative 15x. We pull down the last term, minus 6. I'm going to pull down my camera so we can see this a little better. We go here now. How many times does x go into negative 15x? We're dividing. Negative 15x by x is negative 15. Negative 15 times x is negative 15x. Well, would you look at that? They match again. Negative 15 times 2 is negative 30. Then we switch the sign on everything in the second line. That was the divide step, multiply step. Now we're doing the subtract step. These cancel, gives you a 24. We have nothing else to bring down, so we're done. We just have to find the right way to phrase this. If we had a 0 here, we would just write everything that was up on the top, like that last one where it had the 0. I'm not going to move the camera up there. You can maybe go back in the video if you need to. How we write our answer here. Everything that was on the top, that's our quotient. But then we put plus our remainder, or if it's a negative, we can put a minus, 24 over the divisor every time, x plus 2. Okay, so there's our answer right there. We had a remainder. That's how we handled it. Kind of like, if you look back here, this was the quotient plus the remainder over the divisor. It's a mixed number. This is kind of like just a big mixed number. It's a nasty looking mixed number, but it's a mixed number nonetheless. All right, I'll try to do another video for tomorrow to walk you through some other stuff and also post the Khan Academy video to help you out with this.